Don da da Don Don. Don da da Don Don Don. Don is facing significant challenges that come along with being a man. Let me say that again. Don Lemon thought he was safe because he was on the liberal side of the aisle and being able to do all of these reports for CNN. But Don Lemon is definitely facing, and I see you, James. James wanted, I'm going to read the super chat shortly. Don Lemon is starting to face the wrath of what we would call modern women. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. And Don, if you guys aren't familiar, because I did a live stream on this a couple days ago, Don responded to Nikki Haley, which is a Republican candidate for president. And Nikki said that most of the politicians today are too old and over the hill. Don Lemon, when asked about it live on air next to his two female co-hosts, who just happen to be white women, responded and said she shouldn't be talking about nobody being over the hill because she definitely hit the wall in the name of Kevin Samuels. Now, he didn't say that exactly, but I'm paraphrasing here. He said, listen, when you go over the hill, she going to be sitting there with her face right there next to over the hill. She not it. And they came for Don. They came for Don. As a matter of fact, I just heard and read today that Don just got reinstated back on CNN. He got to go through diversity, equity, and inclusion training. He got to go through sensitivity training. All right. And here's another thing that I heard. I heard that they're also saying that he got one more time to step out of line and they going to let him go and let the cannons fly. Don, let me cite my sources. Don Lemon. He has formal training. CNN. Oh, this might not be very credible. TMZ has been on it lately. He got one more time. Here, let me share my screen with y'all before we get into the video. This is what they're saying about Don to the Don Don. He got a final warning by CNN, and one more screw up, one more time, and we gonna let go of Don. That's what they saying out here in these streets. But although I'm not necessarily a Don Lemon fan, I was a fan of what it is that he said about Nikki Haley. Although I'm not personally a Don Lemon fan, and I don't like what side of the aisle that he stands on, and I don't like a lot of his takes, especially liberal takes, I start getting flooded in my email box and my DMs with different videos of Don throughout the years, probably more closely aligning with the things that I like than the things that I don't like. And so they found this video from 2013, and I want to play it for you guys, and I want to see how closely me and Don aligns when it comes to how it is that we think that we can solve for the problems within the black community. Let me go ahead and play this video, and then y'all tell me what y'all think about Don's take. Do you completely dislike Don, or do you more closely align with what it is that he feels sometimes? Because sometimes we may disagree with somebody on one thing, but we might agree with somebody on another thing, right? So let's play the video, and then I want to get your thoughts.
The reason he is right about that too, but in my estimation, he doesn't go far enough. Because black people, if you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing. Here's number 5. And if this doesn't apply to you, if you're not doing this, then it doesn't apply to you. I'm not talking about you. Here's number 5. Pull up your pants. Some people, a lot of them black, gave me flack for saying that recently on the Wendy Williams show.
If you're sagging, it means, I think it's your self-esteem is sagging, and who you are as a person, it's sagging. Young people need to be taught respect, and there are rules.
Sagging pants, whether it's Justin Bieber or no-name Derek around the way, walking around with your ass and your underwear showing is not okay. In fact, it comes from prison when they take away belts from the prisoner so that they can't make a weapon.
I thought it came from prison and that they take away your belt, or you actually giving a signal to the other prisoners that you're fruity and that it's time for you to go ahead and take your manhood. That's what I thought. I think that he's actually censored this a little bit. And this is actually airing on CNN back in 2013. So don't rock with me when I was excoriating black people, but now you want to start to feel a certain type of way when I want to say that this woman is over the hill. Nah, I'm not taking no sensitivity training 10 years later. But I don't necessarily disagree with what Don is saying. I don't think that he's off. He said, listen, if you want to fix the black community, then you have to present yourself a little bit differently. He used pulling up your pants as an example. However, what he's saying is that you need to be a lot more presentable. And I get a lot of pushback for that. I get a lot of pushback when I tell people, listen, if you're going to go into being an executive and that's the thing that you're actually shooting for, then you might not want to look like a rapper and you might want to put down all of the black soap. And then y'all get mad at me and say, but Anton, that's our black culture. And then when I say, okay, well then go back to Johannesburg and do it there, then you want to feel a certain type of way. But let's see what the other 4 points is of what Don is saying, because I need to understand who this guy really is. And he's starting to send me down a path where I want to better understand what Don is saying.
And then it evolved into which role a prisoner would have during male-on-male prison sex.
Oh,
the one with the really low pants is a submissive one. You get my point? Number 4 now is the N-word.
For our generation, what we did was we took the word and we took the power out of that word.
We took this word and we made it into poetry.
I understand poetic license, but consider this. I hosted a special on the N-word, suggesting that black people stop using it, and that entertainers stop deluding yourselves or themselves and others that you're somehow taking the word back. By promoting the use of that word when it's not germane to the conversation, have you ever considered that you may just be perpetuating the stereotype the masser intended, acting like a nigger?
He put that hard R on there, though, didn't he? He put that hard R on there. I can't say that he's saying anything wrong. And the problem with it is not that people took the power back, because how is it any different than Amber Rose doing a slut walk and saying, we taking the power back out of calling somebody a slut? We're going to take something that was originally intended as negative, and I will also bring myself to the front of the congregation and say that I may be a little bit guilty of coming back to what it was that I thought would make sense back when I was younger and calling somebody a nigga when they acting like, because it's a difference between black people and niggas. All right? But the key is that the reality of it is that it then becomes hypocritical if we say that women can't call themselves slut and then try to turn it into a positive thing. But then we want to call each other niggas as a way in order to really show some endearment towards each other. It's true. And then for the rest of my life, even though I struggle sometimes with not cursing or not calling somebody that pissed me off a nigga, I'll probably struggle with not using the word for the rest of my life because I've already conditioned myself at a very young age to think that it was okay. But I'm retraining myself. I'm relearning.
A lot of African Americans took offense to that too, and I wondered if I gave the right advice. I really did. But confirmation came the very next day on my way home when I exited the subway on 125th Street in Harlem. This little kid in a school uniform, no older than 7 years old, he was crying his eyes out as he walked down the sidewalk with his mother. I'm going to be honest here. She turned to him and she said, "I'm sick of you. You act like an old-ass man. Stop all that crying, nigger."
For some reason, I don't think she said the R. She didn't put that hard R on there. And you could tell that Don was a little uncomfortable trying to force that out. You know what you meant to say, nigga. That's how you really supposed to say it. Don ain't even comfortable using the word, and that's how I know that he ain't used to doing it. Which is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That hard R, though, you know, black people, they get offended you throw that hard R on there. Like, you could replace the A with an ER, and then it means something totally different in a man of black people.
Is that taking the word back? Think about that. Now, number 3. Respect where you live.
I like this one.
Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities. I've lived in several predominantly white neighborhoods in my life. I rarely, if ever, witness people littering. I live in Harlem now. It's an historically black neighborhood. Every single day I see adults and children dropping their trash on the ground when a garbage can is just feet away. Just being honest here.
I'm curious, though. Why do we think it's always okay to do it in in neighborhoods that we predominantly reside in, but we don't think that it's okay to do it anywhere else? If you can't get away with it here, why would you try to get away with it there? That's why I think we should be more like Singapore. I think you should go to jail once we see. I can't stand. I don't like people parking on the grass. I don't like people throwing trash out the window. I don't even. You know, one of the things that actually has been pissing me off more often than not is when I see smokers throw their cigarette out the window, because I think for some reason that it's going to come dangerously close to getting stuck in the grill of my car. And my car costs over $150,000. Both of them. Both of them. BOFEM. Both of them. A piece. I don't like it. I don't care for it. And so I don't see anything that he's saying that's off. I don't see anything that he's saying is off. I don't have a problem with it.
Number 2, finish school. You want to break the cycle of poverty? Stop telling kids they're acting white because they go to school or they speak proper English.
I don't have any. Listen, he hitting every point on the head. Because you're intelligent, now you ain't real. Because you want to finish school and you want to go to class and you don't want to get a basket weaving degree, now you ain't real. He's absolutely correct.
A high school dropout makes on average $19,000 a year. A high school graduate makes $28,000 a year. A college graduate makes $51,000 a year. Over the course of a career, a college grad will make nearly $1 million more than a high school graduate. That's a lot of money. And number 1, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should.
I think Don might be my low-key spirit animal out here in these streets. We got more in common than we don't got in common based off of what it is that I've been seeing over the last few days from Don to the Don. Making lemons out of lemonade. Don said these modern women is out here having kids with no marriage, opening their legs. It's okay for you to open up your legs in order to let him hit and skeet in you, but it's not okay to make sure that he marry you first. And then we going to have Boyce Watkins over there telling us to marry single mothers. No, you not. No, you not. You had them. You take the trash out with you when you leave. You had them. You take the trash out here when you leave. I think that he got it in order, too. I don't even think that his order is wrong. I think that this is one of the number 1 reasons that's a problem within the black community. I'm sure Roland Martin would have a problem with this, though.
Especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues.
I don't have a problem with what Don is saying. I could see why the ladies are starting to come after him. They said, we don't care about your bleached skin. We don't care about your liberal views. We don't care that you sitting on CNN every day and you inside of the trenches, or that you work very hard to get where you at. We don't like you, Don. If Don ever get fired from CNN, it's a strong possibility he going to be on here making red pill content. If Don ever get fired from CNN and he start getting, I hope he got his money invested, because he ain't got but one more time according to TMZ. If Don wound up getting fired from CNN, I very much expect him to be on his red pill content and for me to be interviewing him similar to how I did Jason Whitlock.